Hey YouTube, this is
Uh,
Chantelle, and this is our first video of 2021. And today we have a collab with the Poor Man's Podcast. As you guys can see from the title, we're going to talk about if Black women are willing to change in order to attract the men that we want, the men on our level. And today I have Trey from the Poor Man's Podcast. So Trey, I'll have you go ahead and introduce yourself.
what's up, y'all? I am the creator of the Poor Man's Podcast. We talk about red pill content. So basically, I define red pill as human nature. So just kind of understanding how humans are, male and female. Since majority of my audience is male, I tend to cater to men. So if you're a woman and you do want to learn what men like and prefer, you can go over there, view some of the content. I try to keep it fair too. I try to keep it as anti-woman bashing as possible to make it friendly for everybody. So you go check me out. I got some good videos out there.
All right, and hi Bobby. Don't forget to like as you guys come in. And so if you guys can know, I use my channel to encourage Black women to become the best version of themselves so that we can attract better quality men. We can stop attracting these dusties that we love to complain about. And in order to do that, I'm using my space to bring on content creators who have similar views and who know what men want. So that's why we have Trey here today. And we're gonna just talk about the main thing I want to talk about is the disconnect. I don't want to call it a gender war. Hi guys, welcome as you come in. Don't forget to like. I don't want to call it a gender war. I want to call it more of a miscommunication, a disconnect, because you guys know my personal story. Knowing the type of men I wanted, but not knowing what those men wanted from a woman. So Trey, I'm going to ask you, do you believe that there is a disconnect in the Black community between Black men and women?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's obvious. That's the reason why we talking right now. It's just. I think that the disconnect is definitely fueled by people that are not in the community, taking advantage of us because we're emotional. Usually, they trigger our emotions to play us against each other. So, but yeah, I do believe that there's a disconnect, and we got to bridge the gap. Hopefully, we could do that. It's going to take a lot of people to do a lot of self-reflecting, because me just telling you and giving you examples of women being this way or men being that way is just going to fuel your bitterness. So it's going to take a lot of self-reflecting to get past your own personal bitterness. But yeah, there's definitely a disconnect, and the only way we can get past that is through reflecting on ourselves.
You mentioned that it was placed on us because we're emotional. Can you expand on that?
Well, I believe that the Democratic Party in particular, and just so y'all know, this ain't no MAGA hat. It's a Black Lives Matter hat. Okay, it's supposed to be a spoof. So when you look at it, people think it's a MAGA hat, but it say Black Lives Matter. So I don't necessarily. I'm not religious to any party. I want what's best for Black people as a whole. So whatever party brings what's best for Black people is the party that I'm going with. That's how I decide to vote. Joe Biden in his last campaign said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. And still majority of Black women voted for Joe Biden. I don't understand it. And it's because we have a religious, almost cult-like following for the Democratic Party, because we feel like what they do and the policies that they place help us. But in all honesty, they just enable us. So if I have a person that's overweight and I want them to lose weight, and I just want to help them just because they want snacks, that it might help them in the meantime, you feel me? But it ain't gonna help them in the long run. So basically what the Democratic Party does is it caters to Black women in terms of giving you benefits, free things, but that makes you rely on them. So then instead of needing a man in the house, you are almost benefiting more by not having a man in the house because of government aid. So what they do is they start should I go all the way into it, or we just...
It's 2021. Go all the way into it.
Okay, because I'll be off the top, y'all. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. If anytime y'all see my content, it's authentic. I like to go in one takes. So pretty much what they do is lock Black men up for horrible, just ridiculous drug charges. Okay, separate the man from the family, and then they basically just prey on the woman and the child. The schools are ran by white women who are just that don't understand that there are innate differences between young men or young boys and young girls. So when they see young boys not being able to sit down for 7 hours, they say they have ADD or ADHD, and they try to get them on medications. And these medications are generally speaking, opioids, which are the same drugs they're locking black men up for. So essentially, they locking black men up for selling drugs and then putting those drugs on the kids. And it makes instability. And it's going to be, statistically speaking, you're at a serious disadvantage anytime you have a one parent household. It doesn't matter regardless if it's a man or a woman. So I know black women try and they do a great job. And I understand the when we talk about being more masculine and having to take those roles, I understand it all. But at the end of the day, it's super important that you do find a man that's willing to step up to the plate. Hopefully you can avoid creating the kids out of wedlock anyway by gauging and vetting through and judging by character. But if you do end up in a situation where you're a single mother, it is going to be important that you don't try to take that independent lifestyle that the feminist movement and the Democratic Party is pushing on black women. Because black women are the only ones that actually believe it. Although everybody say it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I know you're very passionate about this topic because I did see a couple of your content and you mentioned black women being used as a weapon against black men. So I know you're very passionate about that topic.
Yeah, I was about to get into it.
And it's kind of like a brainwashing, taking a step back as a black woman and looking at it. And then I throw myself under the bus a lot, and I use my personal life and my personal friends as examples, because I don't want to generalize and I don't want any black woman in my comments saying, you know, I'm attacking black women. So I throw myself under the bus, and I know where I can see where you're coming from, and taking a step back and looking at it from outside. I can see what you're talking about. Unfortunately, a lot of humans in general don't like to self-reflect because it takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of strength to self-reflect and to acknowledge how you cause this problem on yourself. Why do you think, I get a lot of pushback? I don't know if you get these anti-pick me, we call them over here, women on your channel bashing or saying, you know, you're only bashing black women. And I actually saw a comment, someone said, why not focus on how black men being poor instead of what black women are doing? Someone left that on one of your videos. Why do you think that trying not to criticize black women and coming from a place of love and wanting to better the black community, why do you think that we get so much pushback from the community?
Well, I think it's because there is no, you're not allowed to criticize. There are certain things that you're just not allowed to criticize, and that becomes a problem because then the people aren't used to being criticized. The people who are in the community that aren't allowed to be criticized get crazy when they get criticized. It's just that's how black women are the most emotional demographic in America. Okay, so when you have the men finally starting to step up and say we want to kind of drive the boat, you know, the women don't want to step aside because they feel like it's an attack on their independence, and it's not. The only way we could get further as a whole is together. That's the only way. That's the only reason why we're falling behind. With Martin Luther King and the Black Panther Party and Malcolm X, they couldn't do that without strong black families that could provide financially. That was all funded by black families. How do you stop movements like that from happening? Well, separate the black family. No other culture no other culture is so separated. And that's the reason why we're falling behind in terms of, and that's for economics, that's for education, that's for everything. It's because we're so separated and divided from each other. But there's something about a man and a woman. When they're together, they just complement each other. It's just I know there's so much not alike, but when they're together, it's magical. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
And I'm as I always say, I'm learning. I'm not giving relationship advice. I'm not teaching anybody. I'm using my content to tell you guys what I am learning. And again, I've been binge watching so many of you guys in the Manosphere video. I don't remember whose channel I heard this on, but when the the civil rights movement started, the feminist movement came and separated the woman from the household, turned the black woman against the black men, and that's how the civil rights movement didn't get to be what
to mature.
and
Yep.
then two
That's
types.
that's and that's coming from that's all stemming from the Democratic Party. But nobody sees those silent aggressions, because I mean they're hard to spot, because it
Mhm,
does make sense. You do want women to be equal, right? Everything, the message makes sense, right?
mhm,
But how we go about doing it doesn't, especially in the black community, doesn't make sense. And what black women tend to forget is that, unfortunately, we have to talk about this. I don't know if any of your audience are white, but I think it was Chris Rock that said it, but white women were in on the heist too.
mhm, mhm,
So they
mhm,
like to say, now that we created our movement, and it was the civil rights movement, we was the first ones to do so in America, to really turn everything upside down. As soon as we did that, white women started stepping up and saying, "Oh, we were oppressed too." And it's
mhm,
just not true. When there was a beautiful black woman that the massa wanted to rape, she was the one that was jealous and that would go and kill him. Some people believe that the white female slave owners were worse than the male slave owners, because they felt like they had something to prove. But now, as soon as we started our movement, which was the civil rights movement, all of a sudden they're oppressed too, and they want y'all to band together with them. But best believe, if anything goes south, they running right back to that white man, and y'all ain't gonna have nobody to run to, because we didn't got so pushed away that when black women start to come up with things that are happening to them, we just go, well, I mean, y'all wanted to be independent, so now you
mhm.
reap what you sow. White women don't really believe that stuff. You can tell in their mannerisms when they speak to other white men. They don't have those same separations,
Mhm.
but
And
they gonna tell y'all be the
sorry,
first ones. Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad. My
no, go
bad.
ahead. Finish your sentence.
I was just gonna say, y'all be the first ones to go to bat for everything. Anytime there's any kind of, you look at Black Twitter, the Me Too movement, all that stuff is started by black women, and that's because black women are culture creators, and white women know that. So in order to get further, they're gonna have to use people who have influence, and that just happens to be black women. And I see it all the time in the school that I went to. It was a lot of white folks there, and sometimes they have situations with other people, and they'll use their black friends sometimes to rile them up and get all upset. And the next thing you know, the black woman fight for the white girl, and it's just like that all the time. And you look at TikTok, all the people who start all that content, that's all black women. And then white women just come with their blue eyes and blonde hair, do the same dances, just not as good, and get all the credit for it. And I mean, you from Jamaica? I guarantee you right now, it's a video with 3 million views of a white girl whining. When I see black Jamaican women do that all the time, and what is it's just another thing. Like, for some reason, I don't know. They just piggyback off the culture, and they use y'all to do it. They riding
Mhm,
y'all.
mhm. And I pray
It's,
I like your what's the word I'm looking for? Your passion. You're passionate about this subject, and I really like it, because we need to start having these uncomfortable conversations if we ever want to see the slightest change. And Snuggles, thank you so much for the super chat again. Snuggles always coming on, and if I did not say Happy New Year's, guys, as you come in, don't forget to like the video. And Snuggles said, "Can you tell this young man we say yes to drugs? We have a stake with the pharmaceutical companies, and he's trying to mess up the bag." I think you're talking about Biden, because he said that a while ago when we were talking, probably like 10 minutes ago.
mhm.
But yes, and I like your passion about this topic. Um, Going back to the whole being shame, I know we're all familiar with Kevin Samuel sign: shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. Um, why?
I ain't even
If
gonna lie to you, Shanta. I don't even know what that is. I ain't even seen that before.
what
So can you
sign
explain that to me a little bit? What
the
did Kevin
shame,
Samuel say?
insult, guilt, and need to. Okay, so it's basically the pushback that uh, and I'm not trying to bash. If you guys can see on my banner, it says it's not to bash, shame, or insult anybody. But if we were to say for example, we all know this weight issue is a big issue in our community. Some like over 80% of Black women are overweight. But
Mhm.
if we were to say it like Kevin's platform, he says it a lot that being overweight, then Black women will push back with shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right, kind of shaming him. How dare you talk to a Black woman like that? Isn't your mama Black? You're
Mhm.
gay, and the need to be right. They constantly pick at it. And I see that a lot on platforms that's not criticizing Black women or anything like that. I know personally when I made my video, Learn How to Love a Black Man, I got so many insults from Black women from a simple topic of just learn how to, something as innocent as, hey, we should learn how to love a man. Take Black out of it if you want to, but we should learn how to love a man. Why do you think that? Do you think it's brainwashing in some sense? Why do you think that Black women, so many of us are so far gone into this mindset of being independent, not needing a man for anything, that we are unwilling to take a step back?
Yeah, I think it is. That's exactly what it is. It's brainwashing. It's just from every angle being just same thing with Black men and certain problems that we have, in terms of not being able to commitment issues. The problem with it is there are so many issues on both sides. We know a lot of the men ones. We know a lot of the Black male problems, but now we've just kind of started to chip away at some of the Black female problems. So now, unfortunately, it's y'all turn for some criticism. And I mean, I think that's going to help us go further, though. So I think it's for the greater good. I'm sorry, I don't even know if I answered that question. What was one more time? What was the end of it?
It was the pushback, and you did answer because you said it was our time for some criticism. And backstage, I know I mentioned Dr. Ali, Shahrazad Ali, and how she did mention, unfortunately, this was in 1989 that she mentioned that Black men have been criticized. So many other group of people have been criticized, except for the Black woman. And it's just we're not used to criticism. We're not used to the constructive criticism that will help us grow. And to bring it full circle, because the meat, thank you for the super chat, Sam. I'm so sorry. I bring it up, but thank you for the super chat. The meat of this live is to one, bring awareness to some stuff, and then to also pick your brain a little, because all right, so I made my notes, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though men want fit, feminine, friendly, peaceful, appreciative characteristics in their woman, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the.
However,
Go
pardon
ahead.
me?
I'm sorry. No, so yeah, that's pretty much it. But go ahead.
However, it seems as though, 80% of Black women are overweight, so that cancels out the fit. Friendly, we walk around with the resting bee face. The video I made, Black women smile if men are shocked when Black women are nice to them, and so many men said yes, they're shocked. So that cancels out the friendly. The feminine, the independent, strong Black woman leading with your masculinity, that cancels out the femininity. And the real, the men like natural hair, they like natural features, but we are the beauty industry with fake hair and eyelashes and all those things is $1 billion industry. It seems as though Black women, in everything that Black men in general, but we're focusing on Black, in everything that Black men want from their women, it seems as though we go against it as Black women. Why do you think that is? And why aren't we willing to learn what the kind of men we want and then adjust to that?
Well, because it's never ever, because okay, here it goes. When white men, when there's a white man, it's already kind of understood what he wants. Okay, white women know, and anytime I go to the gym, I see majority white women there. I hardly ever see Black women in there. And yeah, like you said, 80% of Black women are overweight or obese, but 70% of all women are overweight or obese. So I mean, it's a problem across the board that needs to be solved, whether you're looking for a man or not, just for health reasons. And that's the fit side of me talking there. But and with the disconnect, we see that literally the feminist movement piggybacked off the civil rights movement. So it's not too old. It's like 30 to 40 years old. And in the last, when it's really picked up, was probably within the last 20 years, 15 to 20 years. And you see a direct correlation between the feminist movement rising in the Black community and Black men walking away from marriage and relationships. It literally rose from like 8% dating outside of our race. As for black men dating outside the race, rose from about 8% to about, I think it's at like 22 or 23 within 15 years. And that's just because that's right when the feminist movement picked up. It doesn't matter what people are telling you are okay. If the men don't want it, they're not gonna buy it, and they're definitely not gonna commit half of their resources to it in terms of marriage, which is in the contract. So it's just understanding that you have standards, but we also have standards. We're not just gonna take whatever you give. You have to perform. Just like you expect us to provide financially, we expect you to at least try to stay fit, you know what I mean? Try to keep us in mind. So I just think that it's just a lack of self accountability and wanting to. Here's the problem: it's women think that they don't have to chase men, and they don't have to. So anytime you say this is what you have to do to get a man, they feel like that's them doing something to get a man. Like that's like that's taboo. Like that's the worst thing ever. It's okay to men have to take steps in order to get into a position where they can get a wife. So women should have to take steps to get in a position to get a husband. That don't mean they got to be the one to get down on one knee. But I mean, if you got to go to the gym every now and then, it ain't nothing wrong with that. It really don't take that long. So all them excuses is out the window for me because I didn't heard it all, and it don't take that long. So it's just minimal things you could do to put yourself in a better position that people don't want to do because they feel like that's men forcing them to change, and that's a part of the feminist movement. Men are at the, you know what I mean? It's just natural. When a man sees a woman that's more fit, you look at a person that is more capable of being nurturous. When a woman sees a man that's taller, she looks at him and says he's able to protect me a little better. I'm 5'7", so I'm saying that against my height. But I understand it. It's part of the game. Chalk it up to it. How I can reverse that as a 5'7" male? I can take care of myself. I can exercise. I can put on some muscle to show maybe I can protect too. I could get some money like Kevin Hart, 5'5", dark skin, probably wasn't getting nothing before, but he learned to tell jokes real good to the point where he's worth $100 million. And that's just part of the competitiveness. And we're expected to perform. So women should be expected to perform. It's that simple. But sometimes they don't want to because they feel like that's them catering to men. And if you consider it that way, there is nothing wrong with wanting the attention from men and catering for that attention. There's nothing wrong with that. You wear certain dresses because it looks certain ways. So why not exercise to look certain ways? I don't understand I just don't be understanding sometimes the mentality for why you don't want to, try to go out and do what men are saying that they want. Like it's just that simple.
He's trying to. Let me get to that super chat. Snuggle said, "Is this man saying his name is Trey?" Okay, thank you for the super chat. It's Trey saying, black women are easily manipulated and they don't have the ability to see what their actions can cause in the future. And we talked about this in another life. I'm not saying
he's saying is he saying if that's a guy or girl? I'm not sure, but he's saying like is this man saying like.
Yeah, like
I don't know.
Are you saying that black women are easily manipulated and we don't have the ability to see how our actions influence us in our future?
I think I'm pretty. Yeah, that's that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But I'm saying that in the nicest way possible. And it's not in a sense that they're less intelligent. We know that for a fact. It's literally a fact that black women are intelligent. It's just that we're emotional and humans are emotional beings. That's what life is. It's really emotions. We're driven by emotion. So regardless of how smart you are, if you're overly emotional and somebody knows how to play into your emotions, they will win. It's just that's the art of war. That's the oldest trick in the book.
And
getting a person that. Go ahead.
Sorry.
I said that's the oldest trick in the book in terms of literally that's what great athletes do. Like that's what great conquerors do. They get you in your emotions and in your feelings so that you get out of your character and they can play you just however they want to. So I'm not saying that I'm not trying to say that black women are not up to par or not smart enough. I'm just saying, yeah, black women in particular, black men are manipulated too, but black women just happen to be the most emotional. So
because as I mentioned in another live, black white, every woman, we tend to think with our emotions. Men tend to think logically. So your emotions win. If you were to put it side to side, your
Yeah.
emotions win. And that's why this whole feminist movement was so able to come inside of our home and separate the black men from the black women so easily, because as opposed to a man who will stop and think and say, wait, will this make sense in the long run? Does it, how will this influence my family, my kids? A black woman just think with her emotions and say like, oh yeah, you're right, I feel this way. And that's where we are. And as I always say, we're not trying to bash, shame, or insult anybody, but unless we have these conversations, we won't get to better ourselves. We won't get to the point where we all desire, because no matter what we say, and as black women, no matter how much we say we're independent, we do not need a man for anything, we all desire a man who, if somebody's breaking in at night, we're sure that he will go
Yeah.
downstairs.
Yep.
And
And you should. That's exactly how it should be.
mhm, mhm. Hello, game changer. Hi, game changer. Welcome. Happy New Year. All right. So in moving on, you had mentioned something, a point that I wanted
Chantel,
to.
can I make one more point in terms of the
Yeah, of course.
Democratic Party and the? I don't mean to cut you off there because I know there's a big problem with that, just not listening good enough. But I'm working on that too because I love to talk, as y'all can see. Um, but just more proof that the feminist party or white women in general don't have the best at heart for black women and with these movements is at what point when women were given the right to vote, did that include black women? Is my question. For people that believe that these people in this movement is for black women, just look at the facts. Black women got the right to vote when black men did, and that's because we stuck together and fought for it together. Not when not when white women got the right. Okay, that's just because that's how the movement is. It ain't for y'all. What it does is it clouds us so that we're not focused. So instead of us looking at what a party can provide for black people, our women are focused on what the party can provide for gay people, trans people, which is all important. And that does matter. But what we have to do as people is to focus on ourselves, because our movement is getting clouded by other movements that have jumped in front of us and piggybacked off our movement. Our movement was the civil rights movement. As soon as we got the right to vote, next thing you know, oh, I'm oppressed, feminists. Oh, I'm oppressed, kids in cages. Oh, I'm impressed, gay, LGBTQ. And it's just more and more. As soon as Obama made gay marriage legal, transgenders just jumped right in right afterwards and started saying we want to use the same bathrooms as women. And that's a topic for another discussion. And I understand that black women have the best thing at heart, but what it does is it clouds us from what we're trying to do. So they're looking at Trump and saying he's bad because he doesn't like gay people and he doesn't like this and that. We're talking about what can whoever do for us, not what they can do for LGBTQ or the feminist movement, what they can do for us as a whole as black people.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
yeah.
I mean, man, you spitting so much gems. But as you talk, I forget what you're gonna say. But we did have a point. To answer the question in the title, yes, there are some that are willing to change. You see the Black Fitness hashtag and other hashtags, but you have more that are fighting to not. And yes, that's so true. And I'm glad you like it because you said that, because there are women who are willing to ask these questions and who are willing to make the change, myself included. And like when I go on other platforms and see men in the comments saying, "Oh, all women are like this," and then I get the vibe that you, these extreme red pill guys are waiting for me to slip up, me personally to slip up, so they can be like, "Oh, got you," like how Rebecca Lynn Pope kind of hop fence, where it's like there are some women, it might not be the whole, like the as much as we would like it, but there are some women who are willing to make the change, to make the necessary changes in order to better our black community, or to just understand what black men want. And with do you have anything to say?
No, I was just gonna say no. I mean, not in particular, but if you want me to talk about something, I could figure it out.
I want to
But
make this point real quick, and to
yeah,
any black women who are listening, we tend to, and in the email that I sent to you, Trey, we tend to lead with the things that attract the men we do not want.
Mhm.
And then we complain. There's so many platforms on YouTube complaining about those men that we attract, instead of just leading with the things that the men we want actually do want. And you mentioned earlier that it's us stepping out of that independence role and allowing a man to be a man, and allowing a man to lead. But unfortunately, with so many of us being raised by single moms and not seeing a dad around, and not witnessing what a man, like a masculine energy man, is like, um, we find it very hard to take that back burner to a man. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think, well, the idea of masculinity has been like, it's been weaponized in a sense that there's a narrative that anytime there's a man that's masculine, and I like to consider myself as so, they're unfair. They just want to dominate. They just want to be competitive. They just want to be
Abusive.
violent. Yeah, yeah. And and in terms of women being like, they feel like every man, it's because people use the word all way too much, and they allow it to get into their heads. They allow the
Mhm,
content to make them feel like every woman is like that. What we're
mhm,
doing is we're taking, as content creators, unfortunately, it's sensationalism, it's news. People, for anybody listening, anybody that does red pill or pink pill or blue pill or whatever, any kind of content on YouTube for the most part is extremism. You take an extreme event and then you say, "Ha, got him." This is
mhm,
exactly what happens when this happens. But they're usually extreme events. So people have to stop taking it so literal all the time, even though there are gems and points that can be made off of extreme events. They are still that, just extreme events. So
mhm,
people have to understand when they're looking at entertainment and when they're looking at the facts. And you can always go get facts to back up the entertainment sometimes. But unfortunately, with a lot of the women talking about men dating outside of their race, majority of black men do date black women, regardless of all these channels saying we seek out white women and we love. Most of black men, even if they don't date white women, or even if they don't date black women, don't think that black women are just physically unattractive. Usually, it's a mentality thing. Every now and then, you'll get a black dude that does have some self hatred, that does say like, I don't like black women at all. I want my baby to be light skin or something like that.
mhm,
Every now and then you will get that. And I can't defend every bad person, because there just are people that won't be fixed. And I mean, that's just what it is, because it's just like that. But for the
mhm,
most part, people are just regular people. Most people want what's best uh for everybody, just kind of wants the same thing. Even when I'm looking at the content, and it's usually for black families to be united, for families in general to be united. It's just
mhm,
there's a disconnect between the entertainment and what's actually real. So another example of that is people thinking that the city girls are actually doing what they say they're doing, and
mhm,
men thinking that these people that's rapping about drugs is doing what they actually saying. There's a disconnect. They're not doing that
mhm.
stuff. These women want to be in marriages, which is what they should be looking for. They're just selling y'all the dream that you should go out and do all this stuff, and they not doing that stuff. They selling y'all a dream, man. It's all entertainment.
And even the young lady that's saying how to bag an 8-figure man, like, it's just words. The amount of people in the population that makes 8 figures is like a point whatever. Like, it's just words, but then we hear this information and we take it up, and then we say, oh well, if he can't buy me this kind of bag, then I don't want him, and all these things. And Charmaine, shout hi Charmaine. She said, everything we want we go for, why not a man? So meaning everything we want, like, if we wanted to go for a good school, if we wanted
Hmm.
to get a good company, we go for that. But as a black woman, if we were to say, hey, I want a good man, like I mentioned in an earlier life, if when I was younger, before entering college, if I had said to my parents, you know what, I'm not going to go to college, I'm going to go to wife school so I can learn how to be a good wife, I would have gotten so much backlash, so much criticism. And it's kind of wanting to learn how to love a man and be your best self for a man is looked down up on in our black community. And somebody had mentioned toxic Thank you for the super sticker, Danica. Thank you guys so much for the support. As you guys come in, don't forget to like this video and Happy New Year. Some of you, few of you guys had mentioned in the chat about toxic masculinity, and that's one thing that we have floating around in society. If a man shows his masculine traits, then he's labeled as toxic. And oh my gosh, let's talk about toxic femininity. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, toxic femi it's it's a topic that most people don't even bring up. It almost doesn't even exist, but it's a real thing. There are women that will just go and prey on men if they get the opportunity. And we don't look at those examples as we don't look at those examples as in the same light as we do abuse, but it is abuse. It's financial abuse. When you take a man that's been working his whole life, he's going to work 40 hours a week, and you've had a child out of wedlock, or you've had a child with somebody else while he's been working for 40 hours a week. How is that not toxic femininity? And it's because what? He didn't have time to hang out with you, enough time to hang out with you. If you want somebody that's going to be going for gold, if you want somebody that's trying to be something in the world, is going to take sacrifice. And a lot of that is time on the front end. On the back end, you'll have plenty of it. You'll have a person that's your role. You're supposed to want to raise. He can't do everything, ladies, is what I'm saying. Okay, he can't do everything. So toxic femininity, that's just one of the examples. If I had to think of one off the top, that's literally, it's raising another man's child, working 40 hours a week. You ain't even know till they 22. That's by law, that's not even a problem. It just be like, oh, well, and you can't even require DNA. You can't require DNA tests at birth. So I don't understand. Like, it's just so much when it comes to people not wanting to take accountability for the advantages, because there are disadvantages and advantage to everything. There are men that you can take advantage of, and there are bad people that will hit women, and there are bad women that will take advantage of men. Those are just bad people, though. And I do agree that there is a toxic masculinity or a toxic femininity, or I'm sorry, I disagree in toxic fat masculinity or femininity. I think it's just bad people, and we're putting a label on it. But it's just generally not looked at in the same light when it comes to women, because the criticism thing. So it's whatever.
That's a good point. And Game Changer said, donated $2 for me to start my wife's school. I'll forward that to Danica, because I'll be a student at Danica's wife's school. But you mentioned something, and you mentioned the whole him fathering a child and not knowing that it's his. But this is going to be a touchy topic. Do my disclaimer, I'm not bashing, shaming, or insulting anybody, but let's talk about this whole abortion topic. One video Kevin did last week, he mentioned that you can make me a father, you can make me a parent, even if I don't want to be. And let's touch on that. What are your thoughts about that? Will that be, although we talk about not labeling it as toxic masculinity or femininity, but would you consider that a kind of toxic femininity? And then as a man's perspective, from a man's point of view, because I have never thought about it like that. We watch these movies, these Tyler Perry movies, and how dare you want me to kill my child? And then it's like, we look at it from the woman's perspective, the woman's point of view, like she wants the baby, but the man did not want to be a parent. But we only take the woman's desires in that equation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when it comes to the abortion topic, me personally, I try to distance myself from it as much as possible, because it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. I don't know enough about it. But I will say, I like I'm fair. I like freedom. If I had a party or whatever, I like freedom. So whatever offers you the freedom is what I go for. I'm not a woman, so I don't like to say women shouldn't, but I do believe they should consult with the person that got them pregnant, for sure. Because but at the end of the day, regardless of what I say, it is going to be their choice. But I do encourage women to definitely consult with the person that got them pregnant. And that's because sometimes people like to use children as a weapon, men, both male and female, usually more on the female side, where they feel like if they can have this baby, they set. But even if you do have a baby by a rich man, a lot of times they don't look at the end game, which is okay. Now you got this child support. I don't know what it is a month, but say it's 10 figures a month, or it's 10 figures. It's 10,000 a month.
10 figures.
Yeah, it's 10,000 a month, and you get used to that. Well, what happens when you got a 10,000 a month lifestyle? What happens when the child hits 18 and you don't got that anymore? Now you have no life skills. You're 42, and where do you go from there? So it's just like, regardless of what you say, it's when you weaponize children, it never works out for anybody's benefit, especially not the child's. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in terms of that, I do believe that that's some kind of form of, if there was a title for it, it would be toxic femininity. Trying to have someone's child and use it as a weapon is completely ridiculous. And
Mm-hmm.
it should be looked at as we should look at that as some kind of, with some kind of like malice. Like we should look at that in a negative light for sure, because you're doing that to a child. Really, is who's gonna get the worst end of the stick. So it's a lose-lose situation in my opinion when you use a child as a weapon.
And I want to go back and say I'm not blaming. Obviously, it takes two to tango, and it takes two parties to have the child. But it's the fact that the woman is, and I'm not saying give the man the upper hand in the decision, but it's the fact that we don't. It's not normal. It's not cultural for us to sit at the table and decide. But it's like, oh, you are a parent without you having to choose. And as I say, you did contribute in making the child. So yes, in some sense, but in terms of having the child when you don't want it, the woman has control of that decision. Terenzi
Yeah,
said
but
we ought to give back the Caucasian narrative of psychology, as that's one of our biggest downfall, is them educating our people. Thank you for the super chat. And yes, yes. What are your thoughts on that, Trey?
we all give back. We all need to give back to the Caucasian narrative of psychology. That's one of the biggest downfalls of is them educating our people. Yeah, well, there's a disconnect in culture. It's really hard for, generally speaking, these are white women who I believe, regardless of what they say, are the most privileged people in America. Literally the people that they don't receive criticism. They get to play victim anytime they want, and they're spoiled like crazy. They're spoiled rotten. Okay, to the point where they think that everything has to happen under their. That's pretty much the whole. What's the meme with the lady with the short hair? Like oh, Karen, call her Karen, right? That's pretty much the whole narrative. Is just being so spoiled to the point where you think even a regular guy at Pizza Hut has to listen to your every whim and break his back for you, or you're gonna talk to his manager and try to find some authoritative figure. That's the same thing with if anything was to happen to her, she gonna go back to get that white man support.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I be going off on tangents, and I'll be losing my train of thought in terms of the question sometimes. That's why I gotta work on that myself. But yeah, it's because a lot of these women, the teachers in particular, are from very privileged backgrounds. They have a lot of the times, if not wealthy, well-off husbands that allow them to take the summers off while their students go and commit home invasions. But no, they're usually spoiled rotten because their spouse has a decent money, a decent income, and they're teaching kids that have to worry about where their next meal is coming from about about X and Y's and math. Like it's stuff that you'll never use in the real world. And the kids
Yeah,
understand it, but there's a disconnect because they have to force these children to understand this stuff when that's not what they see when they look around when they go outside.
yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
it's a huge disconnect between who's teaching us and what they understand about us and how they go about, especially the disciplinary side. It's completely way over the top with the
mhm,
disciplinary. They don't understand that black children, that's how we create these dances and movements, and how why we're so artistic is because sometimes we ain't allowed, it's harder for us to sit down. Okay, we used
mhm,
to stuff going on all the time. So it's just a huge disconnect in culture. And I think that person was right. We need more I think even men as teachers and principals and stuff like that. I had one black principal when I was way young, and he had a huge influence on my life because I seen that a black man, although masculine and somebody I have to respect, can also be so genuine and kind at the same time, whilst giving me constructive criticism on my behavior. And that's important. That's really important. So I agree with that person who said that. I agree with that for sure.
That's a good point. And David said we have a great guest. Yes, we do. And the link to his channel is in the description box
Thank you,
below.
David. I really
So
appreciate
definitely
that.
go check him out. But as you said, you talk about that black male authority figure that you saw growing up, him being masculine, and giving you constructive criticism at the same time. And just going back to the point, that's something that a lot of us didn't see growing up. I mean, personally, of course, I didn't have white teachers. I grew up in Jamaica, but majority of my teachers were Black women. I did not have any Black male principals. And I went to an all-girls school in Jamaica. So, growing up, it was just all women. So not seeing that authority figure. And then I just wrote down a question. What do you think it will take for us to, as Black women, to start? I always say I think it's a lack of respect that we have for Black men. That's why we tend to be so combative and disrespectful, even in our tone. How we talk to some Black men sometimes, calling in on their show, and the tone that we use is so disrespectful. But what do you think will cause us to acknowledge that, okay, not every Black man is the man that hurt us, and to just give respect? And do you think it will be something that Black men have to do first, or do you think Black women have to start giving the respect first?
See, the thing is, it just varies so far. It's just so many variables, you know what I mean, in terms of what exactly happened and how far was the abuse and what you dealt with. I think it's going to take a lot. I think our best bet right now, if I had to take one, is to start. We need Black leaders to be accountable for what they're feeding us. We need to hold them accountable. If I just, this is off the top of my head, y'all. So if I stutter or I take something back, or if it take me a little bit to come up with an idea, just give me a little bit of time. So I would assume we would need the first thing is to hold our leaders accountable for what they're feeding us and our children. Like in terms of content, it's okay. I understand sex sells, so a Cardi B is gonna have to make the music that she makes to go to the top and pop charts. But once you get there, what are you now preaching? Okay. And if that's not something that we feel like as a whole is benefiting us, and it's not, I don't know how to explain it. Like Lil Baby made The Bigger Picture. I don't know if you've ever heard the song. It's about the BLM movement. He made it for the George Floyd thing that happened up in the cities here in Minnesota. But it was just him kind of giving back to the community in terms of his knowledge. Like Tupac, we understand he made gangster songs, but he also made songs that gave us hope, that helped us respect our mothers, like Dear Mama and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So when you get to the top, when we elect you, because that's what it is, there are plenty of Black women that are talented enough to rap, if not better, just as good as Cardi B. So we're really giving them the privilege to be held at such a high standard, and that's with our views and our clicks and whatever that may be. We're literally paying them and electing them to be there. So we should expect them to be held accountable for what they do. And a second thing that I think that would help us a lot is self-reflection through therapy. And I know that's a deep thing in terms of Black people, because there are two parts of the brain. Okay. There's and I might chop this up a little bit. So if you need to go on Google and correct the exact names of the places in the brain, you can do that. But there's pretty much the animal side, which tells you I need food. I want to procreate. I want to have sex, whatever. And then there's the prefrontal cortex. And that's what allows us to self-reflect in consciousness. Unfortunately, with a lot of people, and with everybody, humans in general, the animal side of the brain makes the self-reflecting side of the brain act off of its own instincts. So if I say I'm hungry, then the smart side of the brain goes, okay, well, how can I get food? I can go to the refrigerator. I can go get a pizza in 20 minutes from Pizza Hut, whatever it may be. So what happens is when you don't have time, like a lot of these white families do, to sit back and play video games all day and think all day, and because you're trying to figure out when your next meal is, that animal side, you teach that animal side to feed more. So you feed that animal side more than the prefrontal cortex, which is the side that makes you more conscious. So the side that allows you to reflect on yourself. And it's hard to reflect on yourself because when you see things, the eye in itself, like the eye, can't see itself. So it's really hard sometimes to look inside and and change things based on what you're doing. You know what I mean? Especially when you got to worry about where your next meal comes from. So we're at a huge disadvantage, and that's why that's going to be a hard one, but it's very important. And if you need professional help, we should be seeking that out. And that's another thing is the finances. That's why it's just such a big argument. And I'd love to come on another time. I know we're at about 50 minutes, but when it comes to finances, like how do we get this therapy because we don't have the money for it? Like how do I have time to think about why I might have ended up in this situation when I have to worry about going to work for 10 hours because I have a child at home now because of the situation. So it's just so much that buries us in this endless cycle of just going back and forth and back and forth. And everybody, when they're suffering, wants somebody to blame. That's the reason why Hitler came to power, because the Germans were in a very bad spot. And they say, hey, let's just blame the Jews. That's what Hitler did. And so they blamed the Jews and then they eradicated them. They tried to, at least. And it's the same thing happening with us. It's just we want somebody to blame, so we just blame the other side. And it's generally speaking because of our bad decisions. Most of the time, it's because of bad decisions. But yeah, to answer the question, I would say self-reflecting with therapy and holding people that the content that we consume accountable for what they're producing and the messages that they're putting out, especially if they're going to be representing us in the political domain. Like how are we allowing a person that's telling our women to? I'm not gonna get into it. I know that y'all. It's probably I ain't getting into it. It's just a lot of stuff. I'm not trying to disregard her intelligence. It's the problem that I have with this discussion when I say this, because I don't think Cardi B is not smart. She's obviously created a huge brand for herself that's almost cult-like. You can't say anything against her. Same with Beyonce. So they're smart, but when they're talking to presidential candidates, I'd rather have someone else, to say the least. So.
And you dropped, hey Thunder Scorpion, welcome, happy new year. And you dropped some good gems but unfortunately, the self-reflection comes before the therapy. One thing I've learned with starting doing YouTube and starting this content, you can't make somebody see something if they're not willing to see it. And it goes back down, you're talking about the mind, the subconscious mind. Like when we get a new car and we see that car everywhere, it's because it's planted in our subconscious mind. But so many of us as women, we were raised to say, men ain't, sugar honey iced tea, they never come through, they this, they that. And that's the narrative that's planted in our subconscious mind. It's never us, it's never our fault. And I've said it so many times how I witnessed my relationship patterns. I witnessed things that was going on in my personal life and blaming the outside. I gather my girls and we talk about how these men are, instead of self-reflecting and saying, what did I do? And unfortunately, before we get to that point of maturity so we can self-reflect, we will never get to the therapy that is needed to bridge that gap. So
yeah, that's why it's a super hard obstacle. That's why it's gonna take a lot of time. It might take generations, but we got to start at some point. So
definitely, I believe it's going to take generations. I'm not hoping to change anybody mind with my content or convince anybody else, but I think it's going to take generations before we start seeing some significant changes in the Black community. We mentioned something back before we went live when we talked about women, and I'm wrapping up now. We have probably 15 minutes. Guys, don't forget to like as you come in there. 60 people watching on this first Sunday of the 2021.
Okay, y'all, we done went up. We done broke the record.
Yeah. Don't
Y'all
forget
keep
to
making sure y'all hit that like, man.
Yeah. And then you remember the Poor.Mans.Podcast link is in the description box below. Let's talk about this whole Black woman lacking the ability to take constructive criticism. We talked about that briefly. You have a video on your platform. If you want to just run over that video real quick, explain that video, and then say your thoughts on that.
Okay. That video was basically a black man and I think I don't know if I don't know. It was just a podcast. Okay, it was a podcast, and he brought up the idea that black women are in a position that they're in. Okay, never mind. I got distracted with the thing, the super chat down there. But
Mm-hmm.
black women are in the position that they're in because they're following a lot of the content that like Cardi B's and the City Girls and the Megan Thee Stallions. They're following it to the T, almost cult like. Right, is what he was trying to say. And then instead of taking that in and reflecting with it, the immediate response was to backlash and then say, well, black men, listen to music about drugs and this and this and that. Unfortunately, as humans, when you do things like that, like if I tell you, just if you have any kind of problem, if I tell you, I don't know, you talk a lot, this and that, and you go, well, you do this and that, like that doesn't make me feel like you actually accepted the criticism. It just made me feel like you are now trying to disregard it and now bring up a problem that I have. Now, if in a different discussion you want to talk about the problems that I have, then maybe I'll feel like you actually took in what I said. But that goes from, it comes from not ever being criticized. Men in particular are always criticized, regardless of what we do. We are the ones that have to go get. So if I want to raise, I gotta ask for it. I might be rejected, but I gotta ask for it. We're always criticized because we always have to put ourselves out there. If I want a woman, I have to go talk to her. I have to be the one that goes up to her and talk to her. And that's and even when I had like my teammates back when I was running track, I would try to get them to understand how hard it is, how insanely hard it is to see a person, be interested in them, know that they're gorgeous, so other people are interested in them, and still go out on a limb and try to talk to them and try to bring up a conversation that just doesn't even, you don't even know this person, but you now have the responsibility to go up to them and try to start a conversation. That's hard to do. You know what I mean? So even when they reject men, I try to tell them to at least do it in a respectful way if you're not interested, because it does take a lot of kahunas to go up to a woman and try to convince them why you're the best candidate. It's hard. So we're used to being criticized as men. I think the black women not being able to accept criticism is just because they haven't been criticized, and it's hard to take criticism and apply it, especially when you're taught that the people who are criticizing you are against you naturally. You know what I mean? So with the feminist movement now saying that men are forcing women to do these things and are forceful, now when I have when I have constructive criticism, it's now seen as me telling you that you have to be this way, or me, you know what I mean? Is now seen as misogynistic instead of it just being what it is, and that is criticism. So it's just, it's a couple things that go into why black women can't take criticism, but those are definitely two of them.
And before I get to the super chat, it's a sense of maturity too, when you can sit back and somebody can say, you do this you not say incorrectly, but when you do this, I feel this way. And then your response to that is, well, when you do this, I feel this way. That's kind of like, are we 12? Like, can we have an adult conversation and listen to the other person's feelings and perspective? And then that also comes back to, you mentioned this earlier, and I get a lot of pushback when I say women enter relationships thinking we are the prize, and men have to work so hard to get us and keep us, and we don't have to do anything but to sit there and be pretty and not reciprocate what men want. So when, as you say, the person who is criticizing us, we were told they're against us, we never internalize those criticism as positive. And
Yeah, because
see
you go on
that,
defense. When you feel like
yeah,
an
yeah,
enemy is attacking you, you go into defense right away.
and that's the only way we're gonna grow. I mean, you run track. Your coach had to tell you. Let me. I ran track, right? My coach put me on the team because he
Okay.
thought. No, no, no. Listen to the story first. My coach put me on the team because he thought I was fast. He heard my accent. He said, "Oh, she's Jamaican. She fast."
Yeah.
I came
Yeah.
dead last in every single track meet. No, if the coach had kept me, or if I was like, he should keep me on the team because I'm Jamaican, my people are fast, I'm fast, that wouldn't be serving. Well, what good will that be doing?
Right.
Like, So if the coach can sit me down and say, hey, you know, you're not cut out for this whole track thing,
It's okay.
it's
It's okay. You don't got to be the best at everything in the world. That's why I try to tell people.
exactly.
That's how you and it's not bad to try because that's how you figure out what you're good at. So if you got, I'm sorry, I almost if you think you the baddest man in the room, you go to get in a fight and you get beat up and you figure out maybe you're good at math. That's just how it works. I mean, it's okay to not be the best at everything, but
I know.
that's what it is.
I knew not to put track on my resume when I was entering college. So no, I know.
Simple. Exactly. It's just simple. That's the only way you actually get progression in
Mm-hmm,
life because it is
mm-hmm,
really going to come from self accountability and trying to better yourself gradually. It takes a lot of work too to consistently try to be better. It does. It takes a lot of work, but it pays off in the end and you feel more fulfilled.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're right in every sense. You're right there. Sure, it's all right.
And
Everybody ain't made equal. I'm not going to the NBA no time soon. I'm not waiting on the call for the Lakers. I'm 5'7". Okay, I already know. So you know there's just certain things. We ain't all made equal. So yeah, it's
exactly,
definitely
that's what we get to
figuring out what.
ourselves. So Snuggles said, did Cardi B, and thank you so much for the super chat. Did Cardi B create who she is right now, or did the handless create who she is by realizing the masses are just fools willing to follow stupidity only? So I'm
Mm.
thinking he's saying if she is who she is because of that's what the audience is demanding from her.
Yeah, so like basically, is it just a PR stunt? Like, is it just
Mhm,
we know that this will sell, so you have to act like this in order to sell? Or is
mhm,
that actually her natural self? I personally believe that I believe Cardi B super genuine. I
mhm,
believe she figured out what she's good at. She's entertainment, regardless of
mhm,
if you like her or dislike her. People will literally she gets people so upset that people will take time out of their day. Literally, the only thing you have is time to go on to her content and then insult her as if she sees it. So
mhm,
like she's definitely entertaining. So I think she's actually being her genuine self. I just think that she might not even just because you're rich doesn't mean you've actually self-reflected. Sometimes it can hinder your self-reflection because you surround yourself around people that say yes to you all the time. You now think everything you do is right.
mhm,
So
mhm,
just because she's rich doesn't necessarily mean that she's had a chance to self-reflect. I think that it's just a lack of self-reflection and understanding where you want to go. And I think it's like that way for a lot of artists. They don't realize the songs or the things that actually matter are the cultural impacts that you make. So
mhm,
Drake can make a song that's God's plan, which is basically him just flexing. It ain't really a song about anything. It's just him flexing about how much money he got. I
mhm,
understand he came a long way, but that song ain't gonna go as far as a Michael Jackson song that says, you're not alone, or it's something more about changing the world. And that's the difference
mhm,
between Floyd Mayweather and Muhammad Ali. Floyd Mayweather obviously has a better resume, obviously a better boxer, but Muhammad Ali will always be held as the greatest because of his cultural impact on people.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
So even for themselves to further their image, they should be looking to self-reflect and make a cultural impact. The reason why
mhm,
Ice Cube was so prominent is because of his cultural impact.
mhm,
What makes you withstand the test of time is your cultural impact, not just being number one on billboards for a day. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Or 2 days or whatever. So I think that she's genuine. I think that's actually how she is. She just hasn't had time to self-reflect because she's probably surrounded by a bunch of yes people. So
And and someone I had just put it up on the screen, you know, it wouldn't be there if there wasn't a market for it. I do agree, and one reason I was drawn to Cardi B is because she's more like, you can tell that she's genuine, you can tell that she does not care, she does not have a filter, she's herself, as opposed to, like, say, Beyonce. And I'm not throwing shade or anything like that, but you know, when you see Beyonce, if you even look at her social media, it's kind of like it looks like a museum, like, you know, everything is just so
yeah,
perfect, as opposed to
yeah.
someone like Cardi B. So she is being her genuine self. And as a person saying, you know, it wouldn't have been so successful if the market wasn't, if there wasn't a market for it. So this whole woman empowerment thing, and oh, did you, yeah, you did a video on that. If WAP is a woman
Feminist
empowerment
anthem.
movement.
Yep,
Let's
yep.
discuss that, and then we'll wrap up. And Teresa, thank you so much for a super chat. He basically said that yes, women are easily manipulated and controlled just like the masses. Let's touch on the that whole WAP. And that would probably be our final point because it's Sunday and I know you gotta go. But let's touch on this. This it's for me, I would say it's heartbreaking to have that even being a topic of discussion. Like, what is how is this a woman empowerment? But after watching your video and hearing some people who agreed that it was a woman empowerment perspective, I kind of could see where they're coming from. What are your thoughts on that?
I see where they're coming from in terms of it may make them feel better about them sleeping around, being promiscuous. It might make you feel better about it, but that rejects the consequences behind it. And unfortunately, the reason why it is more taboo for women to sleep around is because and be promiscuous is because it has actual real life effects. Men know subconsciously through evolution or whatever you believe, evolution, whatever. At some point, there were people older that died, and now there's us. So what I'm saying is now we're here, and what we've learned from people, just from us being humans, is there were no pregnancy tests 200 years ago. So how did you decide if the child that you were raising and the resources that you were given were for your benefit of your lineage? Well, you
Mm-hmm,
couldn't. The only way you could decide that is if you seen a woman sleeping around. That was a huge problem because now you know that she might sleep around on you. So
mm-hmm,
instinctually, we know that women who sleep around more are less desirable in terms of marriage. They might be more desirable in terms of being like I don't know, a momentary partner. But in terms of marriage, that's men don't want to commit to anything like that because of the risk
I like
for
how you
us.
pretty I like how you pretty that term up.
Yeah. I'll be trying to figure it out because I don't know. I just be saying stuff, so I'll be trying to figure it out as I go. But yeah, I just it's just when you start saying it's a feminist empowerment song, number one, you completely tear the whole feminist thing up. You tear the movement apart because that's what you consider to be the pinnacle of like you out of Lauren Hill, out of all the Lauren Hills and all the in terms of music. I don't know about her personal life. I'm talking about in terms of music, out of Lauren Hills and all the songs that I don't know Beyonce may have made that can empower women in terms of just being more educated and being more I don't know, just being a lot of other things. Like it's just not all about sexuality, and like it's really become the narrative. And I actually posted a video. I think it might have came out today, where literally a woman, a grown woman, is telling another woman that her advice for children, for the youth, for black women, for black youth, is to listen to the city girls for
Mm-hmm,
advice and for
mm-hmm.
life advice. And listen to the city girls. There's no and I can't make this up. You're gonna have to listen to the video for a little bit because it is about a 27-minute video of me doing exactly what I'm doing here, pretty much talking off the top of my head. But she also says that she figured out that there are no consequences to being a hoe. Okay, I had to make sure to where there are consequences to that. Okay, so don't people can't feed into that, and that's what I'm saying. It becomes cult like. You'll never hear a man. Although we do listen to music about drugs, and some people do fall into the hole of not being able to separate the two, but you'll never hear a grown man talking to another grown man saying, if you want to be successful, you should go listen to the baby because that's going to be your advice for life. We never do that. So it's becoming to the point where it's almost religious, and that's where it becomes dangerous because we're not putting it as entertainment. We're putting it as legitimate ideologies, and it's just not. It's not a legit thing to live your life by. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not. And
And
and go ahead. I'm sorry.
I did see that video on your platform, and she was like, if she had known what she know now, she would have slept with all the guys that she wanted to sleep with. If the most that's gonna happen is them calling her a hoe, and it's just
Yeah.
like, and young women are listening to these things. They are seeing because we want the not we they want the the lifestyle, the flashiness, the and these level up channels too. We need to start calling them out because so many women are dropping fence, leaving their husbands because he can't provide the lifestyle that these level up channels telling them that they deserve. I deserve is their thing,
Well,
and
yeah. If that's
it's heartbreaking.
no, I was just gonna say, yeah. If that's what they want, they can go for that. But they have to understand that it's really hard to get both of those things without a long term commitment. You're not gonna get a person that wants to love you and wants to provide your lifestyle. Because a lot of times when you get into those relationships where you get the lifestyle, you're not gonna get the love that's involved with it. So it becomes what you want in the long term. Because just because people can go to Paris, that doesn't mean they're happy in Paris. People like people just equate that to happiness, and it gets old. I traveled to 12 different countries with the U.S. With the rugby team, and it becomes another airport. It's just like you. If anything, it becomes more of a hindrance. We like to have home games and home tournaments because we just get to stay here. It becomes a hindrance to travel a lot. So people think that just because they see this stuff on Instagram that is real. It's just not though. It's not. It's really separating families. It's getting to the point where it's separating families because they think that you see the troubles that these people have when you look at like a Will and Jada, who've been together for so long and there's so much turmoil. It's just you got to put a smile on in front of the camera so everything looks all glitz and glam. But a lot of times it's hard to get both without a long-term commitment. Now, if you work with the man, you 22, and you decide, okay, I understand that the average age of a millionaire is 62 years old. Ladies, the average age of a millionaire is 62 years old. Okay, now I'm talking like on my podcast, but the average age of a millionaire is 62 years old. So unless you dating a basketball player or a rapper, you ain't gonna get a person that's able to finance your lifestyle at 22. You're gonna have to be willing to date older men. Now, if you want to do that, you can, but you have to understand there's gonna be a disconnect in what you like. Okay, so you want this older man, he ain't gonna want to be talking about Cardi B all day. So you're gonna have to step your intellect game up. You can't be a child and then try to get a man that makes six figures because they don't talk about Megan Thee Stallion all day or what Tory Lanez was doing or whatever. They on a whole nother level. So you're gonna have to get your intellect game up and you're gonna have to be willing to get with a man that's older, might have kids, and you're gonna have to take on those responsibilities. People think that even the lavish lifestyle that you just get the lavishness, you're gonna have to put up with being cheated on. That might be something you have to put up with because unless you've been with that person since you was 22, 23, they're not going to have that connection to you. So they're probably going to be cheating on you regardless of if you do get the marriage status. So it's just a lot of things that come with it that people don't look into. They just think that once I get a relationship or I have sex with a rich dude, I'm set. It's not that simple, y'all. It's just not. So
it all comes down to that I deserve mindset because I was on the CO2 podcast. Shout out to them yesterday, and we talked about how women who would lead with sexual image on their Instagram, they'll lead with thirst trap, wanting attention from men, but then at the same time turn around and complain that there are no good men out here to wife them up, like all these men just want to smash and dash. And
I always think I always thought that was weird that women are allowed to be to how do I want to say it, to display like sexual drop heat, appreciate that, bro. But I just always never, I think it's weird that women are allowed to provoke sexuality, but then once they get the same energy back from a man, which is supposed to respond to that provocation in this way, they say it's offensive. So you didn't wear that low cutting dress to show how nice your eyes are. You just didn't. And then women like to act disingenuous when guys say, okay, yeah, she looks good and they attract a certain guy. You cast that net, you're going to get everything, not just the guys that you want. And unfortunately, women don't understand that. They think that just because when you do certain things, and it's okay to go out and want to look nice. I'm not saying women should want to attract men. That's what you're here for, and that's what you should go for. But you have to then once you get them, you have to know how to get through them to find which ones are capable of doing what they promise they're gonna do. Because there are a lot of men that are willing to lie to you. A lot of men and that's the problem with men too. They will just blatantly lie to you in order to get what they want. So yeah, it's just I was just basically going off the fact that it is weird that women do certain things to attract certain attention and they get offended when they get that attention. Like I go into the gym and some of these leggings are damn near thongs. Like they have like the whole leggings and then it has like an imprint of your butt in the leggings. And I'm like, well, now I can't look at your butt, right? But what did you wear those for? I don't understand
in the gym, and these females, like they'll be doing deadlifts, straight leg deadlifts are their favorite workout. And they wear it with these really short shorts, bending over. Straight leg deadlifts when you bend over.
Yeah.
And it's just like, let's call a spade a spade. Why are you here?
Just keep it a buck. That's how we. You got to. That's because yeah, they and then you get the well. I just want to. I just come on, man. You know what you're here for. You know what you're doing. I don't want to be wanting to hear all that. We all grown, and the fact that women can just play the role where they just act like a little kid and say, "No, that's not why I wore these."
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
just it's just absurd to me personally.
Hi Melody, welcome. Happy New Year's, guys. If you coming in, don't forget to like this video as you come in, and Happy New Year's, guys. We have 60 people watching. We have 80 likes. So thank you guys.
Hey,
There are
y'all.
88 people in here because we got 80 dislikes. 8 dislikes, 8 dislikes. So there are at least 88 people in here.
We got
But
8 dislikes.
yeah, we got 8 dislikes.
Somebody
If
ain't
you
picking up
dislike
what
the
we putting
video,
down.
if you came in here to dislike the video, you heard something. Hopefully, you came in at a point where you'll hear something and it will plant the seed in your subconscious mind. I want to wrap up because we've been talking for over an hour. So, do you have any final thoughts?
Uh, it was super refreshing talking to you because I actually do gotta go, but it was super refreshing talking to you because it's just to see that there are ladies out there that understand where we're coming from. At least it's super refreshing. So I enjoyed the talk. I don't really have much to say. I didn't pretty much talk the whole time, so I ain't got much else to say after that. But yeah. So
This was
yeah,
awesome.
make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button just so y'all know.
Yeah, this was really awesome. Thank you so much for coming. I mean, I've been watched so many of your videos, and your mindset is just it's mind blowing. And I strongly believe that your platform is going to take off. You're heading in a right direction. That will help the Black community. This was our first live of 2021. Oh, I missed my cheesiness. I haven't seen you guys since last year. But thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for every Cynthia G. This guy stop. Thank you so much for the super chat and the support. And I'm just excited to see where 2021 will take us and to see the changes we'll possibly make in the Black community. Because as I said, that we are, even if you want to come and dislike the video, we're still planting the seed because you read the title and you thought about it. And that's my goal, to have you have that moment. So even if it's for half a second and then you hit the dislike button, you still had that moment. So all right, thank you guys so much. And I'll see you guys in the next live. Don't forget, Poor.Mans.Podcast channel is linked in the description box below. Go over and subscribe to his channel. All right.